is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Round 2 podcast. I am your host, Nikki Corbett, and we are back with another episode in the entrepreneurship series. And I have my very first guest from my Techstars experience joining me today. He goes by Dr. K. His name is Kelvin. I am going to let you pronounce your last name because I just realized I have never pronounced your last name and I don't want to butcher it. So, everybody, welcome Dr. K.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nikki, for having me. The name is Kelvin Alaneme.
Okay, Alaneme, I gotcha.
Yeah.
So aside from our experience together at Techstars, that was where we met. So I don't know a ton about your background and your history and how you got to walking in the door of Techstars Oakland back in March. So why don't you tell me about yourself and your career journey and how you got to where you are today?
Okay. I started out in the medical field. Got my bachelor's degree in medicine in 2011. So it's been 13 years practicing as a doctor. But then I've also worked as in the NHS in the mental health, which segged into what I'm doing today currently
Mm-hmm.
with Mindhelpa. I'm a two-time founder. So I stumbled into entrepreneurship more like an accident,
Okay,
right?
I love that. Tell me how.
Yeah, so some people actually plan to become entrepreneurs. I didn't plan anything like that. So in October 2020 to be precise,
Okay.
something happened in Nigeria. The youths were protesting, and then there was something, the government sent the military to
Mm-hmm.
actually shoot some of them. So I
Oh,
think
wow.
that changed something in me, and
Uh-huh.
that was actually the start of my first company because just when that happened, I went on social media, on Facebook precisely, and I made some posts. I'm like, because initially I'm part of those that believe, I'm very patriotic about Nigeria, and
Uh-huh.
I've always, as a country that is suffering, I've always thought, how can we help? What
Uh-huh.
can we do differently? How can we? Because Nigeria as a nation is blessed with I don't know if you know this, but 70% of the population, is under 29 years of age. So we're talking of almost
Whoa.
147 million young people. And, they are among the most hardworking people I know. And
That is a crazy amount of
yeah,
young
so if you
people.
have that kind of population that is so young, you should be
Mhm.
tapping into, and it's a populous country. So we're talking of, a country of over 211 million persons. So
Yeah.
because it is large, you have these young people brimming with energy, and
Uh-huh.
somehow I think the government of the day have not really utilized or exploited that human capital,
Uh-huh.
right? So these young people, the police were hunting them down and, brutalizing them, and they went to protest. And that was the background to the
Uh-huh.
whole thing.
Were
And
they
then
protesting? You said October of 2020. So was it
2020, yeah.
was
So
it
they
things
were,
that were like COVID related or was it government related
no, it
protests?
was more of government related. So there was
Okay.
this police arm called SARS that, they were brutalizing young people. Like they see you with
Okay.
dreadlocks and they think you're into fraud, and they just, so they were
Oh,
doing that, and they've actually quite killed some number of citizens. So,
okay.
everybody, they had to protest because you could be the next victim. If you're with a
Hmm.
laptop, they just assume you're into
Okay.
fraud and all that. So, which was very wrong for you to be, stereotyping people like that. So
Sure.
the youth protested, and then, the government looking for how to stop the protest, and they couldn't. They just had to stop it by force, and they used the
Hmm.
military to actually shoot people, and more than 100 people died, according to
Wow.
the government initially denied that nobody died, but a year later they came out to want to hurriedly bury 100 people from that event. So
Wow.
it's a very traumatic event,
Uh-huh.
but that kind of like it affected me because I came on Facebook and I said, if you are a young person in Nigeria and you want to relocate, you want to come abroad to do masters, or you're a doctor, you want to relocate, I will help you.
Okay.
So I volunteered myself, but I didn't know what I was doing at the time because for the next 48 hours, I got more than 500 messages.
Wow.
And it was just crazy because the good thing was I was about to start another job as
Uh,
an associate specialist in psychiatry. So, but I had flown from the US to the UK. So I was in quarantine. It was during pandemic. So I
okay.
was in that 2 weeks quarantine waiting to start. So I was just following the protests because I had nothing to do online and saw what
Mhm.
happened. And so I started responding to people. And, by the second day, I had responded to more than 500 people. I'm like, we can't continue like this. Let's form a
Yeah.
WhatsApp. So I formed a WhatsApp group
Okay.
and it got filled in 2 hours. So they were like,
Wow.
we need another group. I'm like, no, I
Mhm.
can't form two WhatsApp groups. So I moved it to Telegram. And that
Okay.
Telegram group, within the first 1 week, we had over 2,000 members. And that was how we started growing the platform. Today,
Uh-huh.
it's one of the largest relocation platforms in Africa. We are serving, it has a total of over 200,000 people on our platforms, more than
Holy
100,000 on
cow.
YouTube and on all platforms. So that was
Uh-huh.
my first experience. So in 3 years, so what I was doing, that was how I found myself. So I had, so for the first year we were just providing value, you
Uh-huh.
know, scholarship opportunities, job opportunities everywhere. Do you
And had
understand?
you
So
had were you doing all of this like for free, or was there any
yeah,
sort
we
of
were
fee
doing it.
to
We
join
started
the
out
group?
doing things for free. We started
Okay.
out doing it for free. But then we now saw some people will request some specific services. And they
Mhm.
were like, we need this. We are willing to pay. You
Mhm.
understand? And we started having paid things. And that was how
Mhm.
we started. People were willing to give us money. And so
Sure.
we found product market fit even before we incorporated as a company.
Right.
That was
Wow.
crazy. And I bootstrapped that company from
Mhm.
the ground up,
Mhm.
May 2022, because the thing blew up. Like, when I knew that what we were doing was actually gaining traction was when the BBC contacted me to interview me as part of their immigration
Okay.
week. That was sometime in May, 17th of May 2022.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's up there in our YouTube. Then, it was an interview regarding what we were doing. And then we developed services in 10 countries,
Mhm.
US, UK, and all that. And we're helping a lot of people. So we
Mhm.
were giving value.
Mhm.
We're providing value, free value. And then we had these services that people paid for. So
Got it.
that was how. So I bootstrapped it. In that same May, after the BBC interview, I had an investor that offered me 400K.
Okay.
400K
Wonderful.
in dollars, and I turned it down
You
because
did.
yes, I did. I turned it down because then I was combining growing the company with also being a doctor. So I
Mhm.
wanted to grow at my own pace. I wanted to just do this. I didn't need the money because we were very
Mhm.
profitable. And,
Okay.
within that 1 year, we were making almost that in revenue. So I didn't see the need,
Mhm.
because
Sure.
that is also, as a company, you have to decide the
Right.
route you're going. It's very different from the route we're going with Mindhelper now, because
Uh-huh.
with Mindhelper we said, okay, let's build traditionally the real way startup builds,
Mhm.
and then do the whole VC thing and venture thing. So that is my story in a nutshell. That was how I accidentally became an entrepreneur. But
Okay.
I've always been passionate about mental health
Mhm.
because it's something all of us can relate to. One in five
Absolutely.
adults suffer from mental illness. So as a psychiatrist, I've been working in psychiatry. I've seen, we see a lot of patients and there are not enough therapies. So this was something I was seeing,
Mhm.
from hospital to hospital. There are not enough therapists. We
Mhm.
have to refer people to outside.
Mhm.
But then inpatient, there are no therapists in most of the hospitals. So I
Mhm.
started looking into it and saw that there is this acute shortage of therapists. And I decided, okay, let us build mental health, since this affects practically everybody.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, okay, so this is amazing. So is your first company still in existence and still working, and do you still have a role there?
Yeah, so the first company is still working, but I have I have people who are taking care of day to day, taking care of it on day to day basis. So I'm
Okay.
just more like a supervisory or chairman of the board,
Sure.
just
Okay.
this way.
That's
Yeah, I'm
wonderful.
fully working on Mindhelp.
So let's talk more about Mindhelpa and how you guys ended up in Techstars. So how did you learn about Techstars? How did you show up and apply? And I mean, gosh, now knowing what I know about the application process and how 3% of applicants get in. Tell me what that process was like for you and how you got your, I mean, you're incredibly charismatic. So I'm sure the in-person or the Zoom interviews, they just loved speaking with you. But what do you feel made you stand out to get you guys in the program?
Okay, so I think we didn't enter Techstars with Mindhelpa.
Mhm.
Mindhelpa was something, we pivoted to become
Yes. I
Mindhelpa
definitely
while
want to talk
in the
about the pivot
program.
because that's one of the coolest things that happens in there.
Yeah, so we got into Techstars. So before Mindhelper, I was building Locum Doc with
Hmm.
Sanjit, and it's still something we're building in the healthcare space. And there is acute doctor shortages. That was what we were addressing.
Hmm.
Um, Before helping, because I had this network of doctors. you
Hmm.
know I'm a doctor myself. I have a lot of friends who are doctors, so I had this network of doctors which we're building, and most hospitals need doctors.
Hmm.
Okay, but then there is not a place where hospitals can see doctors and book them easily. So
Oh, okay.
we decided, okay, let's build something that doctors can see vacancies in real time, and
Hmm.
hospitals can see doctors in real time as well,
Oh, yeah.
to
Yeah.
shorten that process and solve that issue. So that was what we were building.
Hmm.
And before Techstars, we have already had potential customers, which is agencies. So agencies were the people we were targeting, doctor recruitment agencies. They were the people we were going after. And so prior to Texas, I saw the Texas application and I applied.
Hmm.
Honestly, I didn't know it's going to be all that step and all that rigorous, but it's a good thing because most of the stages, the acceptance, it's one of the hardest things to get into.
Hmm.
But the advantage that has for you is that it helps you. Just the application process will help you distill and learn your business so much.
Hmm.
So it helped us kind of distill our offering and
Okay.
clarify things with regards to locum doc.
Hmm.
Okay, and going into Texas, we already had potential customers who were just one step away from making payments. But then
Okay.
we wanted to go into. So when we entered Texas, our customers changed because we started doing the jobs to be done, and we
Uh-huh.
found out that, yeah, these agents are more like the middlemen
Yeah.
to the hospitals, right?
Uh-huh.
And we have what the hospitals need. So if the agents are customers, we're just the middleman to the middleman.
Hmm.
So
Got it. Yep.
while agents are good, we saw where the trend was going was that hospitals were cutting out agents and going to doctors directly.
Got it.
So hospitals told us, we can work with you if it, so it the thing that made more sense was to go straight to the hospitals,
Hmm.
right? So going straight to the hospitals at that point made more sense. So we decided, oh, okay, let's change our customers and let our customers now be the hospitals
Okay.
while the agent. So automatically, our former customers before going into Techstars became our competition just
Mhm.
overnight, just by
Right.
that switch,
Yeah.
right? So now, because we're in Techstars and the company is based in the UK, selling to hospitals is a different matter entirely. For agencies, it's
Yeah.
simple. You get agencies are small companies, so you can
Hmm.
get the person writing the check, talk with them, they love what you're doing, they come on board. But for
Hmm.
hospitals, it's not that way. For
Okay.
hospitals, the person that will sign off the decision is very different from the person that will use the product, is different from the
Uh-huh.
person that has the acute need.
Hmm.
Do you
Hmm.
understand? So you have
Yep.
the clinical directors, you have the people in charge of rotating doctors. So there was just this mesh.
Yeah.
And Techstars will not allow you build until you've done your JTBD. So you need
Hmm.
to actually talk to your customers. And
Right.
that was where we started running into some problems because
Uh-huh.
getting the hospitals to talk to us
Hmm.
became an issue.
Yep. I bet.
Initially, some of the people we contacted in the hospitals didn't want to talk to us because what Locum Doc was building was an alternative to what they have. So they felt
Huh?
if they use us, their job is to find doctors for the hospital. So if the hospital signs up and uses us, they will go out of jobs.
Right,
So
right.
they told us, we don't need doctors.
Right,
Indoors.
right. Yeah, because
You
they're
understand?
like, "We
So
don't want you to
that was
take our job."
so you are coming to take our job. So that was part of it. And I was like, wow. So
Yeah.
we started going to clinical directors. And when we went to the clinical directors, some of them told us, oh, we love you. We love what you're doing. But, you know, we already have a framework that we
Mhm,
recruit doctors from,
mhm,
right? So there is a framework they have, the whole NHS. So it's
mhm.
like this particular framework, and most of the agencies are on the framework. So if you have vacancies, they all sign this contract that you must advertise the job on the framework. It's only when you
Okay,
don't feel it from the framework that you can give outside companies like Locum Doc, you know.
okay.
So that they were like, before we can talk to you, we like talking to you, but before we
Yeah,
can do business with you, you need
yeah,
to come on the framework. And I'm like, but what we built is an alternative framework. So
yeah.
coming on the framework makes does not really make sense because it makes us like another agency, which we
Mhm,
necessarily are not. But
mhm,
so I was like, okay, worst case scenario, let's even get on the framework. So
mhm.
how do we get on this framework? And they were like, okay, you want to get on our framework? Good, we'll get you on the framework, but it takes 18 months
Oh,
before we
dang.
open the framework to accept new people. So it takes
Mhm.
18 months. So you do all the applications now, but it's only 18 months later that we are going to admit you on the framework. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
so what that means is for 18 months we'll be burning money and be
Yeah,
hoping and pray. I'm like, nah, this is
yeah.
not sustainable and I'm not going to do it because my first experience was a B2C. Like I believe in selling to customers. It makes more
Uh-huh,
sense. It's straightforward. You understand, it's easy
uh-huh.
because you can get customers everywhere. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, what do we do
Uh-huh.
differently? And then in the course of our JTBD, we started talking to people and we discovered that the place where there is this acute need is not just in the whole medicine. The acute need is more in mental health. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh, good, this is my territory. So
Yeah.
we're in mental health specifically. And we started talking to people and we discovered it is actually therapists that
Mhm.
are much, much needed, more than even psychiatry. So I was a psychiatrist myself, and in a psychiatric hospital, we had maybe like 10 doctors, but there was no therapist. So it was just
Mm,
doctors, nurses,
interesting.
and everybody, but no therapist. So it tells me that, there was a pressing need, and I asked around, and, it was the same issue. And we're like, okay,
Mhm.
this is what we're going to do. And another thing that helped our pivot was, I don't know if you were there in Met's Iseri, his
Oh,
session.
yeah.
So Met said something, and it was an eye opening thing because I was sitting with my co-founder Sanjit, and Met mentioned, he said, "This is a long journey,"
Mhm.
and that kind of dispels the myth because there is this Silicon Valley lie.
Yeah.
Everybody believes that it's sold. Oh, you have a company. Oh, you're a startup founder. This, that, and in 2 years you sell your company for $1 million.
Right.
And you become a $1 billion company in 3 years. It's a
Yeah.
lie. It is a
Mhm.
lie.
Mhm.
Those are the exceptions. Most of the companies, this is a journey. If you are becoming an entrepreneur, it's a journey you need to be committed. You need to bring out 10 years of your life to work on
Absolutely.
this. And you need to ask yourself, this thing I'm building, am I willing to talk about it for the next 10 years?
Yeah, that is such a great
And
way to look at
you
it and
understand,
to have passion
Met,
for it.
yeah, during Met's session, he said, you need to be ready to do this for 8 years. He said
Uh-huh.
8 years. And I turned to Sajid, I said, we're going to do it for 10 at least. And
Uh-huh.
I told Sanjit, I said, are we willing? Yeah, doctor shortage. Is it something I'm willing to talk about for the next 10 years?
Mhm.
You understand? Did some soul searching and I found that in as much as I want to solve that problem,
Mhm.
you understand? I cannot talk about it ad nauseum.
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah.
understand? There is a limit to how much, because when you say doctor shortage and that's what you're talking about, maybe on LinkedIn or anywhere,
Mhm.
anybody that is not a doctor tunes out.
Yep.
Anybody that is not a hospital tunes out. And
Mhm.
even those that are doctors and in hospitals, they're already in a particular job.
Yep.
It's not, they are not pressed. It's not a pressing problem for them. They tune out.
Mhm.
So who are you talking to? But
Yeah.
then mental health is something I'm passionate about. I can
Uh-huh.
talk about it for the next, I can talk about it for the next 50 years. And I'm
This
like,
has
this,
been you just saying
like
all of that has been
this is what
so
I should be doing. You
yes.
understand?
No, I
So
love this and even just that theory, like that is like a theory that should be ingrained into every aspiring entrepreneur's
Yes.
brain is
Yes.
because it goes really hand in hand with that product market fit with, is your problem, or is your product solving a morphine level problem, or is it a vitamin level problem?
Exactly.
But flipping the script though, because that really, excuse me, that really puts it back on yourself, and to sit there and look at yourself in the mirror and say, is this something I can talk about for 10 years, all day, every day, living, breathing, because I'm so passionate about this? And if your answer to that is no, that is a real reality check.
Yes, you need to do something like, you might not know this, but midway into Texters, by the fourth week,
Hmm.
I was depressed.
Oh,
We
really?
were because we were meeting these roadblocks.
Uh-huh.
We were not making any progress whatsoever
Hmm.
because of these roadblocks. Clinical directors will not want to talk, and we were staring failure in the face. And
Uh-huh.
we're like, nah, this is not how it should feel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because we know we want to solve a problem, and it's very painful because we had committed a lot of money.
Hmm.
We're talking of more than £80,000 of our
Uh-huh.
personal money, 1 year of hard work and effort and everything to build this thing. And just because we switched our customers and switched some of the things, fundamentals, a lot of
Hmm.
things just changed. The
Hmm.
business became almost untenable. Not untenable, it's something we could still do, but we didn't have that runway to wait for 18 months before.
Hmm.
So it was just an uphill task. And we're
Yeah.
like, should we continue this or should we do something else? Do you
Hmm.
understand? Should we zero
Yeah.
in? So what we did was a soft pivot. We zeroed in, and we're doing, so since as soon as we pivoted, we started making a lot of progress. And
Uh-huh.
do you understand? We started making a lot of progress. We started seeing a lot of growth. We started getting some traction, and we were happier. So it
Yeah.
was like a switch was switched on, and we were
Yeah.
like, this is how it should feel when you are solving a problem people need. Because
Hmm.
now we talk to people, everybody is a potential customer.
At
Anybody we talk to,
100%.
they were like, oh, I use a therapist, and the therapy is so costly for me. I spend $200 per therapy, and you said you're going to do it for 50.
Yeah.
Sign me up. So
Yeah.
everybody, so we started seeing customers everywhere. Our
Hmm.
messages was resonate because even if you don't have a mental illness, you know somebody who does. So
Hmm.
it's no longer Greek.
Hmm.
So you understand? So we started, and it's mental illness is such a key thing
Hmm.
because it can undo anything. Even the most successful people can just wake up and commit suicide. So it's such a topical thing and an emotional thing, even for families, that everybody takes it seriously, right?
Yeah.
And it's so we found ourselves moving from solving what was an ice cream problem with the hospitals, because the hospitals have their own way of getting doctors. It's not really a pressing need for them, to
Hmm.
solving a morphine problem. Like,
Yeah.
people need mental health solutions now.
Hmm.
It is pressing. Even
Hmm.
if they don't need it now, they know a friend or they know somebody who needs it now
Now,
and who
absolutely.
will continue needing it. So it became a morphine problem. And
So it's
solving a morphine problem feels very good.
I bet it does. And I can even see the way, just in how you were describing everything. I mean, even explaining locum doc and how that was all working, your passion level just in how you were speaking about it changed when you said, "Hey, we made the switch." So, I love that because it's so true, and you have to have that level of like innate like core passion that will come out of you as you're going out in the world and telling everyone about your idea.
It's important. Now, this core passion you're talking about is called conviction.
Mhm.
Now, if you lose your conviction,
Mhm.
you will not succeed.
Yeah.
Believe me,
Mhm.
people will know.
Yeah.
If you're not convinced about what you're selling, remember
Exactly.
how entrepreneurship is, you are trying to sell an idea. Sometimes people don't know these ideas,
Mhm.
right? You are the only one that is seeing the vision. You need to
Mhm.
take people to that promised land,
Yep.
right? So if you don't even believe what you're selling,
Mhm.
it's like telling yourself a lie.
Yeah,
And you
absolutely.
cannot stand yourself. That dichotomy will kill you faster than anything. So
Absolutely.
the first thing as entrepreneurs, and if you're not convinced about what you're doing, just stop. Do
Yeah.
something else. Life is too short to live a lie.
Oh
So if
my
you don't
gosh.
believe in the
Yes.
problem you're solving,
Mhm.
I'm telling you, because I had to look myself in the face. I looked my co-founder. I said, we need to. Do you
Mhm.
understand? It's very hard to do. It's actually very hard, especially when you've grown attached to this problem. You've
Absolutely.
spent money. I cannot tell you the number of sleepless nights I had. Do you
Mhm.
understand? With what will people think?
Mhm.
What will people who do you understand? And all that. But you need to put yourself first. You need to
Yeah.
put your gut feeling first.
You
You
are
need to
preaching to the choir, Dr. K. I
yeah,
love
you
it.
really need to do that. You really need
Yeah.
to consider, because if you continue on the wrong track, it's
Mhm.
like marriages,
Mhm.
right? If you are not convinced that this is the one,
Mhm.
why are you on that altar saying I do when you don't mean it? You're just committing to a lifetime of suffering,
Yeah.
because the man you are
Totally.
signing, it's the beginning of the end, it's not the beginning of
Right.
forever. It's
Yeah.
actually the beginning of the end. So
Mhm.
that conviction needs to be there.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're just an accident waiting to happen. So I believe for entrepreneurs, having lived that experience, don't be shy to always be true to yourself.
Mhm.
Look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, do I believe in this problem I want to
Yeah.
solve? And always start from the problem.
Uh-huh.
Mistakes we have as entrepreneurs, many people start from the dollar signs.
Mhm.
Do you understand? Many people start
Oh,
from, oh,
absolutely. So many people.
I want to be $1 billion
I wanna be a
founder.
multimillionaire.
I
Yeah.
want to be somebody that have raised Serie A.
Mhm.
Start with the problem. Start with the
Mhm.
problem. What problem do you want to solve?
Mhm.
Secondly, are you the right person to solve this problem? And thirdly,
Mhm.
are you passionate enough to solve the problem? You
I mean,
understand?
I think all of these things you're saying are so they show what a high level of self-awareness you have to be able to be that honest with yourself, because it's so easy. I mean, one of the things that I noticed as we were going through Techstars and watching all of you guys, because I came in as a consultant side, so I wasn't a co-founder. I didn't come up with the idea with Pair Anything, so I was there with a completely different perspective than everybody. And I'm watching all of you with, like, you guys have put your blood, sweat, and tears and time and sacrificed so many different things because you believe so strongly in these ideas. And I remember so vividly when Neil made a comment on our very first day of in person, and he said, some of you will start here with one idea and you'll leave here with another idea.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so interesting because I know the emotional investment that gets
Yeah.
into these things. And so, like you were just explaining, being able to say, like, oh my gosh, like, we're going to make a change here, and having all of those worries come into your head, like, what will people think? How is this going to feel? Am I going to be able to do it? But like you said, you have to have that passion, and you can't be out selling something that you don't even believe in. So I think that's so insightful. And I mean, I give you a ton of props for making that pivot midway, because, there weren't, I mean, I think you guys and one other team really, really pivoted from we're doing this and now we're doing this.
Yes.
And that was very bold. So
Yes.
here's what I want to hear now. Tell me, like, explain so everybody really understands what Mindhelpa is and how you guys are changing the therapy game.
Okay, so what Mind Helper is the name, and that's the good thing. The name speaks for itself, so at
Mhm.
least everybody knows it's mental health. But what we are doing differently is so there are three key problems when it comes to mental health.
Mhm.
The first problem is the demand and supply problem.
Mhm.
Post pandemic, there have been a surge in the
Mhm.
number of people with mental illness.
Mhm.
We're talking of 1 in 5
Wow.
adults. But for people under 25, the Gen Zs is actually 1 in 3
Okay. Wow.
suffer from mental illness. So there is this surge.
Mhm.
On the contrary, there is a sharp decline in the number of therapists.
Interesting.
Because for you to become a therapist, most times you need a master's degree.
Mhm.
For you to become a psychologist, you need a PhD.
Oh, okay.
So how many people are going to school to do,
Yeah.
these days to do, when
Yeah.
people make money on YouTube and Reels and TikTok? Do you
Right.
understand? So there are not enough people going to school and graduating.
Mhm.
So and if you're going to school to do masters, you're there for 1 year. You can't even practice until maybe you've gotten your hours, you've gone through supervision and all that. So
Mhm.
people are getting unwell faster, more than
Okay.
10 times or 20 times faster,
Mm-hmm.
more than the rate we are
Yeah.
churning out the people who can fix them.
Mm-hmm.
So that demand and supply problem is very, very big.
Mm-hmm.
And how Mindhelper is solving it is we kind of, Mindhelper helps. So we are improving access by providing affordable online group therapy
Mm-hmm.
as a service. So because of the group therapy, a single therapist coming on Mindhelper working for 1 hour will
Mm-hmm.
see 10 people instead of just one person. And
Yeah.
if they work for 30 hours in a week, which is the standard working hours in Mindhelper, they will see 300 people instead of
Yeah.
just 30. So by that, it's online, and by doing that, we are solving that demand and supply problem. So if we
Mhm.
have 10 therapists can see 3,000 people, in 1 week
Yeah,
instead of
that's
just, yeah.
wild.
So that's basically what we are doing in Mindhelper. So if you compare that, normally 10 therapists working in 1 week, normally if they are seeing one persons, we'll see just 300 people.
Mhm.
Compare that to 3,000. So
Yeah.
we have just increased it by a factor of 10, right?
Mhm.
That is the first problem. The second problem is cost.
Cost. Yep, definitely.
Therapy is expensive. For you to get
Mhm.
a very good
Mhm.
therapist, you're talking of spending $200, $300
Easily.
per session. And
By
most
session.
sessions are
Yeah.
done weekly. So we're talking of per week. So you're looking at, let's say on the average, $1,000
Uh-huh.
dollars per month just
Mhm.
on therapy. But with Mindhelper, because of the number and group, we are using the group economies of scale. So
Mhm.
we're able to afford to make it very cheap. So with Mindhelper, for $50, which is like the cost, less than cost of a day's meal,
Mhm.
you can actually get a week's worth of therapy.
Did you
So
say 15 or 50?
50,
15?
50,
50.
50,
Okay, that's what I thought. Which is
50.
completely, I mean,
Yeah, it's super cheap.
so
It's
doable.
$200 per month. So compare that
Yeah.
to 1,000. Okay. And you're getting very, very experienced therapists. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, the most experienced. For some of our counterparts, I'm not going to mention them, some of our competition, they pay therapists $30 per hour. We
Whoa.
pay our therapists $100 per hour. So
Yeah.
we ensure, just to ensure, we're building it around the therapist, ensuring that the therapists give their best. They are
Yeah.
motivated to actually work and help people. The third problem we are solving in Mind Helper is the problem of loneliness and isolation.
Mhm.
So mental illness can be very, very isolating. And
Yeah.
it's one of the hallmarks. Once people become mentally unwell, they start to withdraw.
Mhm.
And because they feel misunderstood, they feel if they talk to people, people will not understand, people will say it's all in your head and all that,
Yeah.
of which so and there is a lot of stigma at that. People don't want to share because
Mhm.
people will start looking at them funny, people
Mhm.
will say they are in quote crazy and
Mhm.
all that. So as a result, there's this stigma and the loneliness and isolation. Now in the group setting, you're there, not just you. So you're getting support not just from the therapist, you're also getting support from other people who are passing through the
Yeah.
same thing.
Uh-huh.
Let's say you lost your dog, and
Mhm.
you are in our Mind Helper grief counseling group,
Uh-huh.
and you're there, and while you're in the group, you see another person who has lost
Mhm.
an entire family in an accident,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
It's true we cannot compare grief, but you lost your dog, and being able to see this other person's grief and putting your own side by side kind of gives you perspective. And
Absolutely.
you might even find yourself, despite the fact that you're grieving, offering support to this
Mhm.
other person.
Yes.
And that kind of changes the game because you are not just getting support, you're also offering support, you're
Yes.
also checking in on the person, you're also becoming more like an accountability partner. So everybody
Uh-huh.
holds each other accountable. And a lot of studies have shown that group therapy is very, very effective. And
Mhm.
in fact, I have a lot of people who've done group therapy, they swear by it because they are like, this is what actually accelerated my healing. So it's something
Well,
you
I
can
think,
do in addition
as
with
I'm sitting here
individual therapy.
listening to you say all of this, I'm amazed because I think, there's so many different things, right? Like I've hired therapists on and off throughout my life. And one of the things that I know is usually the first thing that, people talk about is finding the right fit.
Yes,
is this person the right fit for me? And you can burn thousands of dollars figuring out if a person is the right fit for you. So there's that piece of it that is, I think you're helping alleviate, because maybe the therapist isn't 100% the right fit for me, but the group setting and the other people in the groups help with that. Because the second
exactly.
thing that I was going to say is that feeling like someone can relate to you, feeling like somebody can understand what you're struggling with. And so having that setting where there, like you just said, there's other people who are experiencing the same type of emotions, whether it's loneliness or grief or loss or a certain type of sadness, and just feeling like, oh wow, like all these 9 other people are going through these same feelings on a daily basis that I am too. And so
Yeah,
having somebody else to relate to, and then when you add in the decreased cost, where maybe I join a group and I'm like, okay, this was good, but like I'd like, maybe it wasn't grief that I was really needing, maybe it was loss or whatever. And just knowing that I'm like, okay, well, I'm not out hundreds of dollars, I'm out $50, and next week I can
yeah,
try something different. So
exactly.
I think this is really, really awesome, and providing that space for people. I mean, I certainly think that one of the reasons that we're seeing an increase in people who are struggling with their mental health is due to the isolation that came along with COVID and the lockdowns and everybody being at home. And now we're in this remote work environment that has stuck around. And I'm certainly not a I don't I do like remote work, but on the flip side, it can be very lonely when you're sitting at home in your house or in a room by yourself day in and day out, and you're not having that office interaction that was once part of your day to day. So, I think that this is a really, really cool. So how many location, like how are you guys marketing yourselves? Are you doing it location based, time zone based, or where are you kind of focusing your growth?
Yeah, so for starters, we are starting in the US from key cities in the US. But the beautiful thing about what we offer is that there are some kind of therapy, well, not therapy, more like psychoeducation.
Mhm,
So there are some of the groups that are psychoeducation that are not diagnosis based.
mhm,
Okay, so if it's psychoeducation for those people, many places can benefit,
mhm,
right? So with that, it can, people from even other time zones can benefit from that. So if it's diagnosis based, most of our therapists are licensed
mhm,
in the US. Some of them are licensed in more than one state.
mhm,
So we ensure our system, our algorithm ensures that, if you are registering, you say the state you are in, so you're
mhm.
actually being matched to the therapist who does that particular thing in that particular state. So we have
Oh,
a
okay.
trauma processing group, we have a grief, depression, anxiety group, we have a work burnout prevention group, which is more
Mhm,
like psychoeducation. So that one, anybody that is suffering from burnout anywhere. So,
mhm,
but we're starting in the United States from the key cities, most of the major cities, and we hope to go global because we've been getting a lot of interest. Earlier today, I did a session with a lot of entrepreneurs in Africa regarding
uh-huh,
mental health as well. So there is so much need.
mhm,
There is so much need, even from developing countries, and
mhm.
also we're going to start in the US, validate the idea, and grow the business sufficiently, and then the UK, the Canada, and then the rest of Europe and the world.
Awesome. I love that. So I feel like this conversation has been so great because you've shared so many incredible nuggets. Like I'm already sitting here being like, I'm going to clip this, I'm going to clip this, I'm going to clip this. But one of the things that I always like to ask, entrepreneurs that I have on is, what would be a piece or two of advice that you would want to share to an aspiring entrepreneur who has that idea burning inside them?
So the first idea, or rather the first tip I would share is, starting from the basics. And in terms of the basics, I've mentioned it before, but it's worth reiterating. Start with a problem.
Hmm.
Entrepreneurs are problem solvers.
Hmm.
Okay, so if you are not a problem solver, maybe you should do something else besides entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurs are problem solvers. Entrepreneurs see problems. So when other people see problems and complain,
Mhm.
entrepreneurs don't complain. We look for solutions,
I love
right?
that.
So we see when other people are seeing problems, we are seeing opportunities. We are okay. Is there any way we can do this faster,
Mhm.
do it better? Or is it something? Are we making a market here, like creating something new entirely? Is this something people will want? So we're always on the lookout for opportunities. So the first thing is start from the problem.
Mhm.
Start from the problem. There is this book by Yuri Levin, the founder of Waze. Okay,
Mhm.
and the title of the book is Start with the Problem and Not the Solution.
I love
Okay.
that.
Many
Okay.
entrepreneurs start, building things people don't need.
Mhm. I think that
People
that was
build
something that one of our speakers said during Techstars. They said, you're not trying to sell them on your solution. You're trying to learn about your customers' problems.
exactly. So it's you start with a problem, and how do you know a problem is worth pursuing? Okay, because not every problem is worth solving. There are problems. If there are not enough people that are having that problem,
Mhm.
maybe it's not worth your time. If
Yep.
people are not willing to pay to have that problem taken away, maybe it's an ice cream problem and not a muffin problem. So,
Mhm.
but starting with a problem and then weighing up the problem to find out if it's worth your time,
Mhm.
it's very, very crucial. The second tip, okay, the second tip is entrepreneurs, you need to always look after your mental health.
Mm. Yeah.
Entrepreneurs are at the highest risk of suffering from mental health
Mhm.
difficulties because it's a journey filled with a lot of uncertainties.
Mhm.
You don't know if your customers are going to buy. You don't even know if this will take off. You don't. There are a lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
So that fills you with anxiety. That can
Mhm.
get you depressed. There are a lot
Mhm.
of things. You can just wake up and you're slammed with a tax fine or franchise tax or
Yeah.
something. During Techstars, we just woke up and we saw a franchise tax from Delaware of $67,000, and we're like,
Woo!
wow. We
Yeah.
had to, it took us a lot, we had to start recalculating. Eventually, we ended up paying, I think, 600 and something, which was the actual fee when
Yeah.
we recalculated. So, but all these things can happen. You can just wake up and something has gone wrong.
Right.
You wake up and all your customers have returned your products, have
Mhm.
turned on you. So, you know, you need to look after your mental health.
Mhm.
Entrepreneurship is a high pressure career.
Mhm.
It's high pressure. There is high risk. There is also high reward, but it can be very volatile. So as a result, look after both your physical health and mental health, but most importantly, your mental health, because as an entrepreneur, you use your mind more than you use your body.
Yeah.
Because you're always thinking, you're always coming up with ideas. So your mind is stressed. And how do you look after your mental health? One, sleep.
Mhm.
Sleep. You need to sleep well. You need
Sleep
to
is
recharge.
so important. Like,
You
sleep
need
has
to
become my
recharge.
number one priority.
It is the cheapest. It is the cheapest and the most affordable antidepressant and stress reliever
Yes.
ever, and it's free.
I
So it's
totally agree.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So it is. You don't need to pay anything to sleep. So
Mhm.
try and sleep well,
Mhm.
and try to exercise. Most
Yeah.
entrepreneurs live a sedentary lifestyle. Some are hunched down, coding, and because you're doing what you love and what you excites you, you don't even know you're in the flow state. Time passes,
Yeah.
but you need to eat. You
Mhm.
need to exercise. So you need to stretch because if you don't exercise, you might succeed, but your body will pay the price
Mhm.
because sedentary lifestyle, obesity, high blood pressure, a lot of things. So
Mhm.
you need, as entrepreneurs, we want to live long and enjoy the fruits of our labor. So you
Mhm.
don't want to fall
Exactly.
down, fall down with heart attack, after 10
Mhm.
years. We don't want
Yeah.
that because by that 10 years is when your company might become that $1 billion company and you're
Mhm.
falling down dead. You
Yeah.
don't need to burn the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
You need to, reserve, some energy. Take breaks, okay? Don't wait for a big vacation because you're going to burn out.
Mhm.
Okay, many entrepreneurs they want to work, 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 looking for that big vacation. Give yourself breaks, 1 hour
Mhm.
breaks within the day, 1 day breaks within the week during
Yeah.
weekends. Just relax. Entrepreneurship is a marathon.
Yes.
It's not a sprint. It's a
Definitely.
marathon. So you need to be alive for the long haul. Just take your
Yeah.
time. Ask yourself, Apple, Facebook has been on for this is Facebook's 20th year.
Yeah.
20th year. So it's
Mm-hmm.
20 years. So this is a long journey. You need
Mm-hmm.
to be prepared. You need to just, understand it and, take care of yourself so that you'll be alive to see your company through.
Yeah.
And finally, therapy is key.
Mm-hmm.
If you are already suffering from mental illness or anything, please, therapy is important. Many people don't even understand why therapy is important. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there's this saying I always say therapy is to the mind what exercise is to the body,
Yes.
right? So, therapy can help you identify any troubling emotions, thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and behaviors, and all that, and all of us can benefit from it. So, using therapy does not. Some people, are scared. They feel the word therapy stigma.
Mm-hmm.
Me going if I say I'm going to therapy, you
Mm-hmm.
know, people think there is something wrong with
Something
me.
wrong
It's
with me.
not.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. We are trying to normalize that word therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying you're going to therapy is like you're going to the gym. It's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
You're going to talk through your problems with
Mm-hmm.
someone professionally equipped to help you.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeking help, and there is nothing wrong with seeking help.
No, there's
So
nothing
therapy
wrong with it.
is
It's
very, very helpful.
wonderful.
Most of the entrepreneurs the Elon Musk and all of them have top tier therapists.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of why they are up in the game. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're not, it's like most of the athletes, they have personal trainers. They go to the
Mm-hmm.
gym.
Yeah.
So you cannot be an athlete. So athletes make money with their bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
With their skill set. You can't be an athlete without physical exercise.
Exactly.
Same way, entrepreneurs make money with their mind.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be a successful entrepreneur without your mind being in check.
Mm-hmm.
So if you notice that you're vulnerable to mental illness and all that, feel free to utilize therapy. So what therapy does is therapy sets you to baseline and keeps you at baseline,
Mm-hmm.
right? Therapy is different from coaching. I was having a conversation with somebody today.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching, coaching is for people who are at baseline and want to improve.
Mm-hmm.
But therapy, if you are ill,
Mm-hmm.
you are not at baseline. You are sub baseline. You are
Right.
below baseline. So
Mm-hmm.
therapy brings you up to baseline and
Uh-huh.
keeps you at baseline. So
Yeah.
that's why therapy is continuous because
Okay.
if you're not having continuous therapy, sometimes you might sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes having therapy, the frequency might change. You might do
Mm-hmm.
once a month, eventually 1 year,
Yeah.
but therapy helps keep you at baseline. And but if you're having an acute issue,
Uh-huh.
it can help bring you back to baseline.
Yeah.
So it's only when somebody, for instance, if somebody is severely depressed,
Mm-hmm.
somebody that is severely depressed cannot even get out of bed,
Yeah.
cannot even take a shower. That is
Mm-hmm.
not the person you are telling, oh, come, let me coach you to achieve your KPIs.
You're
The
right.
person has not
Right. Yeah.
graduated.
Definitely very different.
The person has
Definitely
not
very
left the
different.
bed. Do you
Mm-hmm.
understand? So medication therapy will bring the person out. So it's only when the person has returned to baseline and is now doing work that they can benefit from coaching and every other thing that is out
Mm-hmm.
there. So as an entrepreneur, understand that your mind is your money maker.
Yep.
And that's what makes you different. You solve problems with your mind.
Yeah.
That is your superpower. So protecting it, ensuring that you have support system. Many
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs isolate themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and because they don't take care of their mind, they tend to fall into habits like coping with substances.
Oh, absolutely.
Entrepreneurs are very quick to abuse substances,
Mm-hmm.
so but if you are having therapy, because substances can create their own cycle of addiction that can actually still ruin such a bright life. So
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to cope with problems rather than escaping from it
Mm-hmm.
can do a lot of good. And it's also important to have support systems,
Yeah.
family and friends. You need to have that cycle because sometimes when we are unwell, we don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
That's the irony of mental illness. You might be depressed and you don't even know. So it's your
Yeah.
friend that will say, oh, Nikki, oh, Kelvin, you've not showered for 3 days now. What is wrong?
Right. What's going
Do you
on?
understand?
Yeah.
And in your mind, you are doing fine, but you
Yeah.
are not.
Right.
Do you understand? So,
Yeah.
because there's something called lack of insight that is
Mm-hmm.
one of the commonest, for things like schizophrenia, it's the commonest symptom. You
Yep.
don't even know you are not well.
Okay.
You
Yep.
understand? So having that close circle of family and friends and support. So entrepreneur journey is harrowing, but if you
Mm-hmm.
have support system, people that can say, "Oh, okay, you failed at this, don't worry, we're still by your side.
Mm-hmm.
Come and stay in our basement." Like
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Bezos built Amazon from, the garage, Steve Jobs, same thing.
Yeah.
But they had that family, they had a garage to start with. So
Hmm.
you need to have, you can burn all your money and you're not successful. You need to have somebody that can even offer you a card and say, come and so that cycle of people who have got your back
Hmm.
is what you need, that can help you to actually launch out, knowing that worst case scenario, there are people that have got you. You're not
Yeah.
going to land shattered and broken on the floor.
Yeah.
There are still that love circle, and you should nurture those relationships, so that
Absolutely.
in times of need, you can draw on those bank accounts.
I love it. Well, I think you should start a Mindhelpa group for, our entrepreneur cohort of people. So,
Yeah, we should. We
I mean, it's
should.
almost like having our monthly meetings is very similar to that. But I think this has been so wonderful. It's funny. I'm sitting here thinking about mental health, obviously, as we're talking about all this. And, doing this podcast is one of my favorite things to do because no matter what type of mood I may be in, the second I jump on and record with somebody, it's just so exciting because I'm learning so much. I love seeing the passion that comes through on the other side. So, thank you so much for your time and sharing your story. I have
Yeah.
absolutely loved this. Now, tell everyone where they can find Mind Help Us so people can see if you're in their cities and follow along on the journey.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nikki, for hosting this. I've been a fan of your podcast, and I told
Thank
you.
you.
So it's an amazing thing you're doing because you're creating so much value. Okay,
Thank you.
so I'm really glad for you having me. So Mind Helper, we're on course to launch in the in major cities in the next couple of weeks. We're just finalizing our usability testing in house. So we're on course to launch, but we already have we have a YouTube channel
Okay.
which has over 2,500 subscribers. So we have a lot of free resources on our YouTube. So you can check out Mind Helper on YouTube. So on all social platforms, we are at Mind Helper. So
Perfect.
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook at Mind Helper. Mind Helper, the helper ends with an A.
Yes.
Okay, and you can actually sign up on www.mindhelper.com. That
Perfect.
is our website. That's where you can see what we are doing. And as soon as we launch, I'm also on LinkedIn as Kelvin Alaneme. So feel free, if you're watching this, to send a request, and let's connect and let's keep supporting each other. I really appreciate what you're doing, and we'll keep building up our entrepreneurship cycle.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dr. K. This has been lovely.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.